Well, welcome everyone. My name is David Abramowitz. I am with Trend Micro, and this is our Family Tech Talk, part of our Internet Safety for Kids and Families program. If you would sign in the chat, there's going to be a link in the chat window for you to sign in. And when that comes, there it is. Thank you very much, Kimberly, my trusty assistant. Click on that and go ahead and sign in. I know there were a couple of schools that I saw from Maryland. Woo, woo, go Maryland. Hopefully they show up or I'll look stupid. That's okay. A couple from my old neighborhood. So welcome everyone. And just a quick reminder, when you put your information in the chat, where you're from. So Emily, yes, good example. NG, I'm guessing middle school, and Timber, excellent. Rebecca, Cherry Hill, very nice. North Wales Elementary from PA checking in. The entire city of Chicago, Illinois checking in, not even a school. Excellent. All right, Yost, Porter, Indiana, National. Oh, here they go. Now they're going. All right, there's a Maryland, Huntington. Woo! Woodbridge, Virginia, not too far. Baltimore, excellent. Jersey, New Hampshire, South Carolina, North Carolina. My goodness, everywhere. Holy cow, now they're going crazy. All right, excellent. Very good. Okay, so this is the list of schools I have here. Yeah, welcome. Absolutely. Look at that. Here's where we should all be representing from, or at least who registered. So welcome, everybody. It is great to have you here. I am based in Maryland on the East Coast. I've been with Trend Micro more than 20 years. That is a lot of Kool-Aid to drink. I am now currently the CTO, if you will, our tech lead of our federal group here at Trend. So I can't tell you about any of the work I'm doing or I'd have to kill you. No, just kidding. It's all good, all good. Trend Micro, for those of you who may not be very familiar with us, we are one of the world's largest cybersecurity companies. We are based out of Dallas, Texas. We have world headquarters in Tokyo. We have offices in countries all over the place. There are 7,000 plus of us crazy people around the world that work for Trend Micro. And this Internet Safety for Kids and Families is one of our early-ish, I think maybe one of the first volunteer programs that started at Trend about 14 years ago. And we've been doing it ever since, going out to talk to kids at elementary and middle schools, to parents at PTA meetings, and all that kind of thing. In the age of COVID, we started doing things online, just like we're doing now on Zoom. But we are starting to go back into schools. So if there's interest in that, we can chat about that later. We do have some really cool content for the younger set, especially. So through this program, we've done, again, we're doing this all over the world. We've reached over 3.2 million kids and oodles of parents just like yourselves. So first, let's get to know you a little better. Before we start, we're going to go through some ground rules here. Number one, escuchar en español. So if you'd like to listen in Spanish, we have another track. You just click the globe icon, I believe, and you'll get everything in Spanish. How about that? Sign in using the link in the chat. We already covered that, but there have been so many messages flying by. Thank you. There is the form again, and there it is in Spanish. Even nicer. Gigi, our translator tonight. Thank you very much. This is going to run about 80, 90 hours. So no, I'm just kidding. 80, 90 minutes. There'll be time for Q&A. I'll try not to blab too much. We are recording it, so it will be available offline afterwards for anyone who might have missed it. Please put your questions into the Q&A window, not the chat window. It will probably get lost behind a bunch of stuff. So there's a separate Q&A window. If you're not familiar with Zoom, just click the Q&A. Ask your questions. I can be interrupted at any time. I want to make this as interactive as possible over Zoom with a gazillion people online. And when we're done here tonight, there'll be a survey at the end. Please finish that, complete that if you will. And that will also enter you for some fabulous prizes, which we'll talk about later. So those are the ground rules. Here to have fun, not here to scare the living daylights out of you. That would not be productive. This is for us to learn more about what you're going through as well. So not a one-way feed. Please ask questions, interact anytime. Kim, if you would, please launch the first poll. And the question will be, how old, there we go, is your oldest child? So make a selection from that. A, 5 or younger, B, 6 to 10, C, 11 to 14, or D, 15 or older. Go ahead and interact with the poll, and we'll get our answers here in just a minute. All of the gremlins are working in the back, spinning on the wheel. The hamsters are calculating the answers. All right, the poll is down, and where are the final results, Kimberly? This also helps gauge where we're, okay, so what we're going to be talking about. So 6 to 10, just edging out 11 to 14, so not many real young ones at all. Good, good. So this material is going to be very applicable to what you're going through. All right, poll question number 2 is kind of a follow-on to that. And Kimberly, if you'll put that up, please. Thank you very much. That question is, what are you most interested in learning about tonight and discussing? You have your choices there. A, managing screen time for your kids. B, helping them stick to age-appropriate content. C, dealing with online bullying or hate. D, getting ideas for positive uses of the internet. And E, I have no idea, David. I am just here to learn and participate and have a snack on mute so that you can hear me. Go ahead and punch in your answer now. And we'll just give that a minute to roll. Are children allowed to sit on this meeting, Danny? Absolutely. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever, as long as they ignore the part where I talk. No, they you will not need to do earmuffs or anything like that. They're absolutely, I've had kids sit in on it, and that's fine. Four-tier old mom here. 4-tier. I don't know what that is. Okay, results of the poll. Looks like a lot of you are concerned about age-appropriate content. Good. That one just always seems to hang around. Absolutely. And hello from Detroit. No, only my camera is on, Carl. So it's webinar format. Thank you for the reminder. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So this is a Zoom webinar as opposed to a regular Zoom meeting where everyone's window is up. The only window up now should be mine. So we don't enable video for everybody. So let's get into it. Oh, there are some questions already. Is there a way, I'm nowhere to see who is signed in via a school? We are giving credit to parents. Oh, Kim is answering that. Good. Thank you, Kim. How to prevent them from watching. Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about that too, Chris. Boy, this group's getting right into it. Okay. All right, so look, here's why we're here tonight. We're not just going to talk about keeping kids safe and telling them, no, this is where you can't go, and don't go to this place, and don't do this, don't do that. It's really about helping them become what we call good digital citizens, right? Yes, we want to keep them safe online and give them information so that they can make good decisions based on good information. Scaring you and giving you all kinds of that information isn't going to be very helpful. We're going to share about as much of what we know as the truth and the facts so that you can make decisions for you and your family too. And it's really about, at the end of the day, starting a conversation or continuing a conversation, because the more engaged we are as parents, I've got 3 of my own, they're in their early 20s, but I've been through all the stuff. So really, really important to have a conversation and to keep that conversation going. And the younger they are, like most of your kids are, the better to start that conversation so that sort of relationship is established where they feel good coming to you rather than, oh, you don't know anything about technology, or I'm not comfortable sharing this with you. So we'll talk about all of that as well. So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to establish our kids and help them become digital citizens. So what is that about? A couple of things. Number one, we help them understand what the risks are online, because just like in real life, there are dark corners and alleys and places that you don't necessarily want to go. But there are also legitimate places that ask for personal information and that sort of thing, which isn't great either. So we want to talk about how to keep them safe and secure. This one I really like, digital literacy, and that's all about how they can navigate the internet. And there are a lot of good things that they can do, establish their portfolios and take advantage of their.
Oh, let me interrupt for a second.
Please.
You showing us your screen? I'm not able to see anything.
Sorry. Okay, so digital literacy, we want them to be able to take advantage of all of the good things that are on the internet, not just talk about the bad. That's easy to do, the no discussion. We want to do the, hey, take a look at this discussion, because it will help you later on when you're looking for a job or when you're applying to college. I see Peter, appreciate your ideas on explaining parental controls. Yes, we will definitely talk about that, Peter, and how they've changed, what's available now. Yeah, 18 comes way faster than you would ever imagine. So for sure. Okay. Sorry, is that a question? No. Okay. Ethics and community definitely has to play a part in this too, right? Because as much as we try to police behavior in real life, in our house, in school, and interacting with people, the same sort of rules have to apply online. There's a lot of tendency to sort of enjoy the anonymity of being online and to maybe shoot some things out that would not normally be said, because kids feel like they can kind of hide behind the internet. But there ain't no delete button. So that's going to be very important for them to know that anything posted is pretty much permanent and searchable at any time. We'll talk about that more later. And the last thing is mastery, right? It's not, again, just about what not to do online, but how to really take advantage of the things that are online that you can do and should do that would benefit you, other people, and everybody in society. So those are basically the four tenets, if you will, of being a good digital citizen. We're going to talk about a lot of issues tonight. How long will this be? About an hour, 60 to 80 minutes. Okay, Chris and Kimberly's asking that. Is it okay to let kids in the age of 8 to 15 play games? Yes, and we'll talk about that more soon as well. So the issues tonight are going to fall basically into these four buckets. Being online, which is all about setting up the environment for getting online, establishing the rules, and providing the example, right? That might be the most important thing that we can do as parents, is to provide the example. And I'll really try to highlight those things when we get to them. Second is be safe, right? This is all about our privacy, which is sort of once you're online, there isn't much privacy, but there are things that you can do to protect your privacy as much as possible. Because all of these social media apps and websites that encourage sharing, and everything's all about sharing and sharing, they're not going to by default set the policy and set the privacy settings the way we want them, right? The whole goal is for everyone to share everything, so they're really not going to set those restrictions. If you want to set those, you're going to have to do those yourself and check them often. So we'll talk about that, personal information sharing, and the kinds of things that the kids are internalizing now with social media, especially with likes and reposts and things like that. So we'll talk about that. Most of the time is really going to be in the blue and green areas, because those are really the most important ones. Certainly, we want our kids to be kind, not only to themselves, There's a really important message there about having compassion on yourself and not being so worried about online beauty contests and things like that. That every time a picture is posted, it has to be commented on with stunning, gorgeous, beautiful, that sort of thing. So having compassion on yourself and not judging yourself by the social media reactions. And last is be savvy, which is great for kids as they approach middle school, especially, and they're kind of getting their hobbies together and their interests, and they want some way to showcase those. And so we'll talk about how to do that and what that entails. Okay. So first slide here, the first thing we want to do is set up the environment. Number one, for our physical health, that means a chair that's comfortable as the kids are spending more time. We're back in school now, but kids still have a ton of screen time at different places in the house, living room, family room, bedroom, wherever it is, but having a comfortable space. The rule about your eyes is every 30 minutes that you're looking at a screen, you should take a break and look at something that's 30 feet away for 30 seconds. That's the 30-30-30 rule, in case you wanted to implement that one. Some people use blue light glasses just to help with the glare from screens and such. How do I protect there was a question that came up. I'm not sure what that word is. How do I protect the something? We'll let Kimberly, maybe you can hash that out offline. Okay, so that's the 30-30-30. Posture, seating, right? We want a good seat, supporting our back. We're going to spend a lot of time in front of the screen. These are sort of obvious things that you probably think about already. The most important one really is take a break every so often and move. So a lot of families got dogs over COVID. Some of them are, maybe some of you are very sorry, especially if you got that cute little doodle that turned into a big goofy doodle that pulls your arm off when you walk it. But dogs do give a good excuse for a break. They need to be walked. So always a good idea to encourage that as a way to take a break. Fido needs to be walked. So get busy. All right. So setting up the environment. Here's where we start to talk about things that you may not thought of. Yes, Paige, I can repeat what 30-30-30 is. So every 30 minutes, look at something 30 feet away for 30 seconds. And that just helps your eyes refocus because the screens are right here, right? And when we look at something away, our eyes need to refocus, and it helps them not strain as much. Okay, so let's talk about setting up the environment. The first one is limiting access to your router. If I'm sure that everybody here who has home internet knows, you probably know you have a router. You may not know where it is, but it's somewhere in your house and it's providing the internet connectivity. So the first thing is limit access. Why limit access? Because your kids are smart. Oftentimes they're smarter than us. But it really doesn't take too much smarts now to take that router, turn it upside down, and read what the administrator login and password is. Once your kid has that, they can log into the interface that manages the router and set anything they want. This is your command central, right? You pay for the internet access. You pay for just about everything technology in the house, I'm sure. You want to change the password straight away. If you haven't done it already and you're just kind of thinking that, no one's ever going to log in there, think again. They will. So change your password that it came with and do not share it. And if there are any updates, go ahead and do those too. So you want to be the one in control. This is something that surprises people sometimes, or they may not understand what this is about, separating the network. If you look at your, if you actually log into your router and you look at the settings, you'll more often than not see that there's a main network and then there's a guest network. And you say, okay, well, the guest network, that's just for people who come over that, I can give them the guest network access. Not so much. A lot of that separation, especially when we were working at home during COVID, right? So the office came home and we're supposed to interact on the same network as the kids are using the PlayStation and streaming Netflix and all of that. So, and not to mention all the smart devices in the home, right? The lights, right? If you're into that sort of thing, all of those devices, all the kids stuff, all the games, everything else should be on the guest network. And if you're working at home, you should be on the main network and nothing else. All right, that's a security issue more than anything else. If you've got corporate equipment at home, I can tell you that a lot of these devices that we have in our house, including the smart TVs, are not built with security in mind. And so anyone who can access those now has access to your whole network, including your work laptop. So it's a very good idea to separate your professional, your work information from the rest of what's going on in the house. And that's really the best way to use the main and the guest network. Taking VPNs, we're going to talk about that in a second. Clear Word Kingdom. And this presentation will be available on your, yeah, so we're recording this. It'll be available offline. Okay, so main versus guest. You might also need an extender if you live in a multi-floor home, for example, or even sometimes 2 floors. If there's a lot of interference, you may get signal that's not as good in certain parts of the house. And having you working at home and the kids doing their thing, and they have friends over and everybody wants the internet and they're in all different parts of the house. So you may need what's called a Wi-Fi extender. Everyone sells them, whether it's Verizon or Xfinity, whoever's providing your internet access. It's just another router, basically. But it acts as an extension of the main signal. So you would put, let's say, your main router, on the first floor or wherever it is now. And if you don't get reception upstairs, you'd put the extender there, which will make the connection with the main router and extend the signal throughout the house more. You may also have heard of mesh routers. It's the same sort of thing. I have that in my home, actually. There's one on each floor so that there is consistent internet connectivity throughout the house. So that may be something that you want. The other best thing, the other good thing to do is to stagger the use time. So if you say, okay, well, mom and dad or whoever is home working from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., there's no streaming then. If you want to stream, it's from 7 o'clock on, that sort of thing. So stagger the time so that everyone is not demanding all of the bandwidth at once. Makes sense? How would you suggest separating the network if you do not work from home? This may not, I would suggest, if it were me, I would just say put all of the devices and games and that sort of thing on the guest network anyway, and maybe just put your phone, your partner's phone, and your laptops, even if they're not for work. Just get some sort of separation from the devices that aren't really built with security in mind from the beginning, which is most of them, really. I don't even think there's a reason to hook a TV up to the internet, the smart TV, unless it's your streaming device. But if you use something like an Apple TV, for instance, that's your streaming device, or you subscribe to YouTube TV or one of the other services, you don't need that come with a box or something like that, then you don't necessarily need your TV to be smart. It's just another device making an internet connection for really not any clear reason, as far as I'm concerned. You may have a different opinion. Can you add an additional network besides guest? Typically not, Emily. So the routers typically come with 2 available networks on the wireless. One is the main and one is the guest. Wi-Fi extender have to do with child. It's not, again, it's not about a safety issue with the extender, it's access. So if it's just another way to get internet access throughout the home. And yeah, and Manish, it's just the 2 networks that are already built into the router, the main one and the guest one. You don't have to create any. But when you connect a device to the network, you always have that list, right? When you turn Wi-Fi on, like on your iPhone or something, like all the networks start popping up, right? So you'll see my house and then my house guest or whatever the name is, right? So you can connect. Same with any device, so you can make sure they connect to the right one. Okay. All right. So in the security aspect, now we are talking about security. The first one, which may seem obvious, is security software on all devices. Now, you may think that's just the laptop, but there's security available for the phone. There's security available for PlayStation 4s. There's security for tablets. So there's security for just about every device where we can put a little agent on, right? So make sure that anything connecting to the internet has security software on it if possible. Number 2 is turn on the firewall. If you're not familiar with what a firewall is, just think of it as a traffic cop for all of the internet traffic that's coming in to your house. And basically that traffic cop says, I'm going to allow, and leaving, by the way, both directions. So I'm going to allow certain traffic in, and I'm not going to allow other traffic in. I'm going to allow certain traffic out, like web browsing traffic and email and that sort of thing. But remote connections to other computers, that sort of thing, that isn't really normal for what I need or what anybody in this house does, don't need that. So turn on the firewall, and by default, it should be able to manage the common things like email and web and allow those things. And you can further configure that to block the traffic that you don't want. Third is use strong passwords. Give an example of that in a second. Change them often, right? Next is use multi-factor authentication. So think of multi-factor authentication purely as, take all the gobbledygook words away, something you know and something you have. Something you know is your password. What makes it multi-factor, so that's one factor. What makes it multi-factor authentication is something you have, like your fingerprint, right? We use this on our phones. Maybe you have little fingerprint readers for work, that sort of thing, or a slot where you insert an ID card, right? That's another. So it's another way of ensuring that it's you, right? Another instance of this is your bank, right? If you do online banking, you log in with your username and password, but that doesn't get you in typically. They usually do what? They usually send a text code to your phone to make sure it's you. That's the second factor. So that's what multi-factor authentication is. So wherever it's available, turn it on. It's an extra layer of security. The firewall typically sits on the router, and it is in the router settings, Leanne. Do we log in as home? Yes, your home router will only have one way to log into it, which you should see on the underside of it or on the back of it. It'll give you the web address to access as well as the login credentials. And we'll talk about security software for the devices, anonymous attendee, but it looks like Kimberly's taking care of that. Okay, I should keep plowing through. And somebody brought this up before. Yes, if a VPN, a virtual private network, is available to you, typically you would get this from work. We use them here at home. We log in through the VPN to get to internal work resources. Schools give them often to their kids when they're working at home. They have to log into a VPN to access the school network. Just think of it as a tunnel. It's a private tunnel. And the idea is to prevent all of the traffic that's going, all the communication going from you out to your work office, or for the kids from their device to the school. It's putting a protective tunnel around that so that prying eyes have a lot harder time to getting in and taking a look. All right. Update. And not just on Microsoft Patch Tuesdays if you're a Windows user, but anytime. It's generally a good practice. I know some people wait, like for major operating system releases, you wait a few days or a couple of releases until they figured out all the bugs. But for most of the software and apps that we use from the app stores, most of the fixes are bug fixes, are security fixes. So do them as much as possible and keep those things updated. Now, the thing about passwords, we said that before. Yeah, that you can make them a phrase. A lot of passwords, a lot of websites and applications now allow a space character, which makes it even more complex and much harder for a room full of computers to guess what your password is. So someone can, keep going at it and trying to guess your password until they do, right? So if your password is password or something like that, that's real easy to figure out, that can be cracked in seconds. If you have a phrase like this one, or if you're allowed spaces, then you can use something like might need to buy more toilet paper soon, as the example gives, right? If you're not allowed spaces, you can abbreviate that sort of with the MN2B, MTPS, right? But even that is not such a strong one. There should be more special characters in it. And again, the more complex you make it, the harder it's going to be for someone to crack it. So do make your passwords complex. There are utilities and some built-in programs. I'm an Apple guy myself, so I use Keychain Access. If you're a Mac user, you know about Keychain Access. It stores all your passwords so you don't have to remember them, and they're encrypted. There are utilities for Windows users as well. And for sure, backup. It's made so easy these days. There are tons of online backup services where you can upload the entire contents of your laptop online and store it there in case of a disaster. You have somewhere to recover. A good rule of thumb, if you're using one of those online services, is also to have a physical backup. So even, like an external drive, and I'd recommend flash drives over the old spinning disk drives, which aren't really made much these days anyway. And none of the new computers come with physical hard drives anymore, even internal ones anymore. It's all flash storage. So that's going to be more reliable and quicker, and just have a physical backup. And if you want to go one step further, you can make a physical backup and give it to a parent or a relative or something to keep in their house. That's the very careful approach. If your house, God forbid, caught on fire and the whole thing burned down, you'd have your data somewhere stored off. Okay, and Miranda, yes, if you missed that in the beginning, it's the webinar is recorded, so you'll have access to it after. Okay. Now, the second thing is using tools. So there was a mention of this before. What the tools help with is things like age-appropriate content, filtering the in-app purchases, right, so that you don't get a surprise credit card bill, monitoring the time online that your kid is spending. It's available in a lot of places that you may not even think. It's not just the router or other devices, but the security software that you're using has controls. The app stores have apps with controls. The different sites, the different applications themselves have controls. Even the game consoles, if I mentioned that before, they have controls also. They might be under family settings or parental controls, privacy settings. New term that's come up recently is digital wellness also. All those things are the same thing. So there are ways to set those parental controls. Look for them and use them. They are there for you to use for good purposes, right? So this is an example for the Apple devices have screen time on the phones and iPads. So if you can set that up for your entire family. You would go to settings and then go to screen time. And under your family, you can see that anybody who's part of it's grayed out there, right? Because this was actually Lynette's, our director of the Internet Safety Program. All the members of your family, even kids under 13, can be set up for this, right? So you can add them there. You would click, if you clicked on one of those users, like right at the top there, you can get weekly reports. You can set a schedule for when the eyes need to be away from the screen, daily limits for how long they're allowed to use applications. or categories of applications that they can use on the device. So remember, I mean, most of the time, we just give the device to the kids when they reach a certain age and say, okay, here's your iPod Touch, your iPhone, have fun. But the better way to go at this is to set up this family structure and set the limits and the rules straight away so that you don't have any issues going forward. Right. So you can set content and privacy restrictions here. So they're only allowed to see content that's appropriate for their age. Maybe they're only allowed to message relatives to begin with. And you can expand that as they get older and they're able to accept more of their responsibility there. So that's the content and restrictions. Okay. Okay, so really just, it's not just Apple, right? This is just for you to know that Android, right? Google has Family Link. Apple and Android devices both have family controls and settings that can help you out. Google Family Link is actually an app and a website, so you can do either one of those things to filter there. That allows you to filter applications. You can limit screen time, protect privacy and security on the Google Play Store or Chrome browser. It even goes further and allows you to track your child's location and get alerts when they're on the move. So depending on how you use the devices and what your practice is, there is that. So we're not going to go through, we're just going to go through what some of the more popular services and sites. There are a lot, right? But we're trying to focus on the ones that the kids are using the most. So YouTube is very, very popular. They launched a feature called supervised account, where you can filter what your kid sees on YouTube based on the levels of appropriateness for their age. They break them down into, what do they call them? They call them, it's up on the screen, Explore, Explore More, and Most of YouTube. And those are age categories, more or less. And you can see what each of those includes. They're meant to target different age ranges. So just look it up and you can find out more about YouTube's supervised account. The kids just love the YouTube. So here's an example of a tool that's actually within an app. I'm sure many of you have heard of TikTok. Your kids may be using it. Earlier this year, actually now that we're in January, early last year, TikTok announced something called family pairing. And that basically allows you to limit the content and how much time your kid spends on TikTok. You need to have TikTok both on your device and your kid's device. Or you can just, if your kid uses your device, you can just set it up there. And you need both devices to set it up, if you're using two, to set it up the first time. But once it's set up, you have control on your phone of the TikTok usage while the kid just uses TikTok and doesn't see anything about that on their end. To use that, you would go to Safety Center and click on click on digital well-being. So that's what you're seeing up on the screen now. And inside digital well-being, you'll see the bottom choice there, family pairing. And that's where you'll assign each phone as a parent or a teen. That's how they label them. And then you can set limits on the time, the content, or the contacts. There are lots of examples of free tech tools available. Just do a bit of research on your friendly Google and spend a little time to get them set up. Even Instagram, question from Janice. When setting up a new iPad, should we create a new iCloud for child or use parent? Yeah, so the easiest thing to do, especially if you're going to be managing their devices and applications and time online, Janice, is set up a family plan, a family iCloud plan. And you're the leader of the club, and then you can add the kids as family members. And there's all kinds of things that you can do on the Apple devices for restrictions and privacy settings. So that would be my suggestion, the easiest way to do it. That's how I did it with my kids. And it worked out great because you all share the same iCloud storage, and then you also can do the restrictions. Instagram recently also introduced a feature called supervision, and that allows your kid to sort of ease into using Instagram before getting hammered over the head with tons of activity that goes on there. And you can limit their time on that as well, so you can see not only see on the screenshot who they're following, but who's following them. And that allows you to maybe start a conversation if you're familiar with someone who's following them that may not be the best kind of person to associate with, things like that, where you can start a conversation and say, maybe this person's not a great person to follow because they do some questionable things. And what are people going to think of you if you follow this person? So it kind of informs that kind of discussion. So that's available. Snapchat's another one. They also put out some features that allow you to monitor more than you could before. But again, these are not they're not intended to be Big Brother types of things, right? It's really all about having a conversation with your kid and understanding what the apps are that they're using, why they're using them, what they're capable of, and also what they're capable of that your kid may not know about. So it's really good for us to get the apps too as parents. So if you're not familiar with Snapchat, let's say, you can decide with a parent buddy to both get Snapchat and start playing with it, and just between the two of you, and see what it does. So you can do that for any app. And that's really the best way, not only for you to get an idea of what your kid might be using it for, but it's also a way for you to have a discussion. So if you're at the dinner table and your kid brings up something about Snapchat and you chime in with something because you've used it, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you used Snapchat. And that even may open them up to, oh, okay, you're someone I can talk to about these things, right? So that it's just another way to start the conversation. There's the family center. So again, same type of thing as the other tools, right? Setting up the family, and then you have access to those different settings. Roblox is big with the kids. I'm sure some of you have kids that are using Roblox. They're games built by kids for kids. So how can that not be fun, right? Roblox has, you can click on the play. Oh, so that's, where is that? Here we go. This one has a movie. So there is the little ellipsis. You go down to settings and then to security. And look at that. Hey, there's two-step verification. You add a PIN. All right. And then you can set the account controls, set who the contact settings are. Maybe it's just limited to friends. Maybe it's no one, but any changes like that now require a PIN so that your kid can't just go in and willy-nilly make changes to things. They'll need the PIN, which only you have. Discord becomes a bigger issue with the older kids, but younger kids have been starting to use it too. And it's a platform that even professionals in our company use it to communicate, to chat, to share videos, to do screen sharing and that type of thing, to do gaming along with other people. But younger kids are starting to use Discord in the last couple of years. And so just be aware of the ways you can keep them safe, because they're just catching up to using it. It's kind of new even to them. So there is a set of configuration options in Discord for, you see here, safe direct messaging, default keep me safe, scan direct messages from everyone. So it'll actually scan for content and that sort of things. So good place to start with Discord. And Carl says, I heard that Roblox is not a good. Yeah, well, I actually don't play it, and my kids are past that, so that could be. Again, a lot of these apps and games, they come and go. All right. The kids get onto something and then they get burnt out on it or whatever, and they move on to the next thing. Discord, who can add you as a friend? So that's another way to keep things going in terms of locking it down, and you can even block in Discord as well. Microsoft, the Xbox has family settings as well. So it'll allow you to filter the applications, because remember these game systems, the Xbox, the PS4, PS5, what have you, they're not just game systems. They have built-in internet browsers in them. They have the capability of having other applications downloaded to them. Our kids love to use, USB headsets to have private conversations. There's a lot that goes on these gaming consoles that is not just gaming. And so they too have family settings that allow you to limit time and approve of spending or friend requests or that sort of thing. We at Trend Micro, shameless plug, we do have our own application and tons of resources, right? This is just one. For family settings and such, we have, if you go to tmfamily.care, you can get the tools that we have available there now to help you with parenting and setting policies and settings and for privacy and that sort of thing. And don't worry, these will all be given to you. You'll have access to these after. Okay. So I think we're a little behind, but we'll try to plow through here because we have no questions yet. So after we set up the environment, the next thing is setting up the rules. So very important to do this as early on as possible so that it's very clear what the intended use. If I give you this phone, if I give you this iPad, this is what I expect of you. These are the rules. And some even we used to have a little contract. I think we still have a little written contract. And that's important too, because it's important to have agreement on not only what the rules are, but what the consequences are for breaking the rules. So good idea, especially for the younger kids, to build the rules together with them, because if they feel like they have co-ownership in it, they're going to be more invested in it. So first thing is, what are they allowed to use? So if they want to download a new app or try a new game or something else, stick to ones that are heavily reviewed if possible. There's lots of resources for that. See if other kids or their friends are using them. So it's the first thing is what apps are they allowed to use? And you can set whatever restrictions you like there. It's completely up to you and what you're comfortable with. It's a device that you paid for, and it's a privilege. And the kids need to understand that it is a privilege that can be revoked if not treated in the right way. Second is when are they allowed to use it? So, I mean, kids are online all the time now, not only for fun, but online to do school stuff as well, right? A lot of the homework is online, and they're using systems like Blackboard and other systems like that to get assignments. And it's becoming a little fuzzy in that sense, but it's still important to be clear about when the technology use is for school and when it's for fun. Something that is a good practice is the 24-hour exercise. I'll explain that in a second. And that's going to help them think about other things that they can do within a 24-hour period other than just screen time and how they fit that into their day. Is there a question? Is there a way to ensure only age-appropriate ads pop up? Yeah, ads are a very, very tricky thing. And they're not very regulated. And I'll talk about that more in a few. So just put a bookmark in that. And if I forget, someone will remind me. But websites, applications, they run on the revenue from ads, and they don't really police the ads. I have a good example of that to share in a bit. But let's keep moving here. How long can they be on? So if screen time is allowed for fun on a particular day, then the rule states these are the hours during which the screen time is allowed, and these are the hours when it's not. Where can they be used? So some people have a desktop computer set up in like a public location in the house, a family room or somewhere where there's open space. and supervision and help can be given if needed. If they want a little privacy, there's somewhere that they can be private in the house that you can check on them maybe. But if you're going to give a laptop and the laptop goes up to the bedroom and the door is closed, there's very little that interaction that can be done there, right? So understanding and agreement on where the devices are to be used and with whom. Lastly, so especially for younger kids, talked about this a little bit before, maybe when they're still getting their feet wet in email and chat, maybe the restriction is the contacts that they can email are only family and a few close friends. Same for messaging, and then maybe that increases over time once they get comfortable with it. All right. And maybe that's another thing you can build together is their contact list. And again, the more that it's a co-developed thing, the more vested they will be in the whole process. Chad asked a question about a lot of it. Okay, Kimberly's answering it. Maybe I should stop looking at questions, Kimberly. I'll never get done. All right. So I mentioned the 24-hour exercise. This came from the Digital Wellness Lab. And it's all about taking the 24 hours of a day and chunking them up into a lot of things that kids can be doing in a day. So we encourage kids to think about everything that they would need to do in a day, in a 24-hour period, to stay healthy, to learn, and to care for their family, friends, or the home. So how much do all those things take up in 24 hours? Have them write it down on their own, or again, a good exercise to do together. So how many things can they do what do they do that supports their health? Sleep, big one, big important one, right? Meals, got to eat, got to get some outdoor and exercise time to keep the machine running. How many of the things that they do supports their learning at school, homework, reading, and so on? What about relationships with the family, time with neighbors? And is there any leftover time if they filled in the whole chart, maybe a pie chart with all the slices of things that they do for the 24 hours. And if there's time left over, so it helps not only to see how much is left over, maybe not enough is left over, so it can help them prioritize their time. Maybe I need to spend more time with supporting relationships and, less time doing this or what, the trade-off of those types of things. So if there's leftover time, maybe there's a menu that you co-create with your kid about all the activities that are possible during that extra time. And just throw them all, put one per piece of paper, throw them all in a jar. And if there's extra time, they get to pick one out of a jar, and that's what their extra time is for. So those can be any kind of mixture of, can be online activities, can be offline activities, right? So that's all about spending their leftover time. And just because there are, let's say, 3 hours left over, it doesn't mean that all 3 hours go to one activity online, right? It could be 1 hour online and then an hour writing a letter to grandpa, or those types of things. So the important thing is that the leftover time isn't always used just for screen time, and whatever limits are set there, that you stick with them and use the tools like we talked about before. And finally, remind your kids that being a good digital citizen means using the technology in safe and good and healthy ways and kind ways, and come to you if there's help, right? So one important thing that we can do there, obviously, is set the example of good policy and good behavior, what it means to be a good digital citizen. So what rules do you have for yourself? And just throw a couple in the chat. I'll just look at the chat box here. Any rules that you have at home that you've set, like no phones at the dinner table, that sort of thing. Throw some things you have there. Oh, question from the chat. I'm going to see. Yeah. So someone had a question about the dangers of TikTok from a data collection perspective. Is it worse than other social media apps? That's a really good question. And my quick answer would be every app collects data and they got caught. That's really the safest way to do it, right? You should see, and I'm going to give you an example of what's in the licensing agreements of some of these apps that kids are agreeing to when they sign up and they think it's free. I guarantee you that TikTok is not the only one gathering information, and information is gathered all the time unless we put some blocks in it, right? Every website you visit is listed and kept. Every all your activities are basically recorded. So there are certain things we can do, but the safe assumption is that when you sign up for services like TikTok, when you sign that agreement, you are giving away a chunk of your privacy, and that's what we tell the kids. It's my personal belief that they just got caught. TikTok and other apps are doing very similar things. So looking at no closed doors, no tech in bedroom, no phones at table or meals. That's a popular one. Xbox only on the weekend, iPad on the weekend. No TVs in the kids' bedrooms. That's excellent. And I'll tell you why that one really catches my eye, because our kids have a lot of problems falling asleep, right? And one of the main reasons why they have problems falling asleep is because the last thing they do before they go to bed is what? Binge that last episode of whatever, or check their phone for whatever. And it's stimulating the brain, right? Those images and everything and your brain needs shutdown time. So a really great thing to do is to have that time at the end of the night where, just like your kids need to go to sleep to recharge, and you do too, the devices need to go to sleep and they need to have privacy and recharge. So the devices can be downstairs in the kitchen, plugged in and recharging overnight, while the people are upstairs sleeping and recharging for the night. So things like that. And that goes for us too as adults, right? We watch TV at night too, and a lot of us have TVs in our bedrooms. And it's just a really good practice to take an hour or two before you go to bed and just shut everything off and give your brain time to relax and get ready to sleep. Nice, Tiffany. So the router automatically shuts the boys' devices off at 9 p.m. That's the power you have. And it's not there to be abused, right? It's there for you to use with purpose, and because it enforces the rules. It's there as an enforcement of the rules. Okay, good. So thank you for sharing those. Laptops or phones. Yeah, a lot of people have the dinner table, and I think that's great, right? I mean, if that's the one time where you're all in the same place together, then there's no place for that. And we need to set the example, which is, what do we do? If we're at dinner and my business phone, my cell phone rings and it's a work call, do I get up from the table, excuse myself, and go answer the phone? Or do I stay engaged in the conversation? And you know what? I have voicemail for a reason. This is my dinner time with the family, right? So it's all about the example that we set. So think about that with your use of technology as well. Okay. Jump into be safe. Privacy settings, right? We talked about that. They're not always set according to what you want. They're usually set according to what the app wants or the website wants. So if you think about Facebook, right? Excuse me, the whole part about being on Facebook is share. So they're not going to set up privacy settings so that you have limited sharing, right? They're never set to the best level for you or your kids. So you need to get involved not only in setting them yourselves, but show the kids how to do it and get involved in finding those settings and setting them with them. Fortnite is a huge game with the kids. Still, I think even my son was playing it for a while. But even apps like that, games like that, if you click on the little hamburger icon there, the 3 lines, you'll get a little menu. And one of the settings in there is privacy. And if you choose that, you'll get a couple of choices for your game. So every game you play, is it public, meaning anyone can see you in the game, only your friends, or it's just private. I don't want anybody looking in on my game. So that's an example of a game that actually has it there too. But understanding the limits is key here. And so this is an example of Instagram's licensing agreement. So I'm going to give you just a minute to read the whole thing. No, I'm kidding. It would take you days to read the whole thing. And they know that, right? They know that kids especially are not going to read licensing agreements. But I asked them when we present to kids, I say, how many of you use Instagram? You know, tons of hands go. Or you have to say Insta to be cool, right? So how many of you use that? Tons of hands go up. Keep your hand up if you think it's free. 99% of the hands stay up. And I say, let's explore that a little. Let's see what it says in the licensing agreement that you agree to when you use the app. And what it basically says is you own your content, but anything you post, we can use wherever and however and whenever we want. And the kids are like, what? Right? But that's what it is. So it's not free because you're paying for it with a piece of your privacy. So just something to keep in mind there. There are limits. And really, by being online, all of us are giving up a little bit of our privacy. But it's sort of in the same way that our company battles the malicious code writers and bad acting hackers and criminals. These companies want things to flow a certain way. And if you want to play in their sandbox, you have to follow their rules. And the best assumption is assume nothing is private. The cyber criminals want information is currency, right? So the more I know about you, the more information I have about you, the more the more insidious things I can do. Excuse me. Been a long day of talking. If I have your name and I have your social security number and I have some other information, maybe I can take out a loan in your name, etc. Right? So it's important for the kids to know that there's all kinds of tricks that can be played by cyber criminals. One of them being poisoned search results or fake search results. Something happens major in the world. Michael Jackson dies. Where's the first place kids go to find out the details? Google, right? Google search. Now they can do a Google search and all the results come up like you can see in the picture here. Which one do you think the kids are going to click on? First one, right? Top one. It must be the most accurate and important. Well, cyber criminals know that, and they'll use all kinds of tricks and methodologies to bump up their search results to as close to the top as possible because they want to collect that audience and then start extracting and asking for personal information. Free offers the same thing. Sorry. My kid came to me when he was young, came running in from the family room. He was doing a book report. And an ad very similar to this one came up. He said, Dad, I can get a free iPad. They only want your credit card number, but they will not charge you. It's just for, whatever purposes. And so, we had to have a little conversation about that. Nothing is free. High interest content like Fortnite, that's going to attract attention, right? It might be a big movie premiere that people have been waiting for forever. I mean, there's a new Harry Potter movie. So one of the things might be a draw to, oh, here's some secret insider information about the new Harry Potter movie. Click here. And the kids are going to be, oh, I got to know because I got to be the one that has the secret information. And it's not a site about secret information, right? Or it says something like, in order to view this top secret preview of the upcoming Harry Potter movie, you need to download this special video player. Click. And it's not a video player. It's malicious code that now implants whatever it is, keystroke recording or whatever they want to put on your computer. And lastly, fake social media posts. This is a little bit more difficult, but just as important to know about. And then it's fuzzed out there where it says likes a link because this was from one of our employees, I believe. But here's breaking news on Facebook, the source of all good information, just like Twitter. Breaking news, Lady Gaga found dead in hotel room. Kids go crazy. Horrible news. Now, if they stop to think for 1 second, is she, is this real or not? But then they see right above that someone they're friends with liked the link, then it's more enticing. So what happened in the background is a cyber criminal was able to access their friend's account because they had a very bad, easy to guess password. They liked the link and then sent this out to their contacts. So now the kids think it's coming from my friend. It must be legit. Click. So these are all the ways that cyber criminals, not all the ways, but these are some of the most popular ways that cyber criminals will try to draw kids in with the end goal of trying to get their personal information. So what we can tell the kids, right? Number one, when they're going to websites, make sure it starts with HTTPS. The S is for an extra layer of security, or maybe it has a lock icon, right? That's not 100% preventative measure, but it does ensure that it's not clear. And what I mean by clear is if it just says HTTP, any information that you send to that website is in clear, unprotected, plain old text that anyone can grab, right? So have them only go to the sites that are locked and that they know and they trust. If they suspect something's not quite right, this is where it really helps to have that relationship and that conversation, because they will come to you and ask you about it. Too good to be true probably is, all the things that we know. Someone asked a question about advertisements before, and I want to bring that up now because there was a site called Neopets. If you're not familiar with this, little stuffed animal you would buy in the store, had a barcode on it. You'd go to the website, enter the code or scan it or what have you. And then you could, play with your pet online and see what your friends had and so on. The banner ads that ran on there, this was for 6 to 8 year olds. And the banner ad that ran there had, how do you rate your lover was the advertisement, right? So companies don't really police nor really care too much about the advertisers that pay them, that allow them to exist, right? If an advertiser's offering a whole bunch of money for them to put their ad on, they don't go and say, well, is it appropriate for my website? Which is kind of, I target 6 to 8 year olds. Is this ad appropriate? That conversation doesn't happen. So the ads can sometimes be inappropriate too. And that's where some of the parental controls come in. So thanks for asking me that question, because that reminded me of that Neopets episode. So question. I don't remember if this was a poll or not. I think it was, Kimberly. If it is, go ahead and put up that poll question, which is, do any of your kids have it is, thank you very much, have their own cell phone? Yes, no, or I'm thinking about it. And this will be interesting because of, I think we had a lot of younger kids in here, elementary school age. So let's see what we've got. Ooh, okay. Pretty close. I'm sure everyone has their individual beliefs and practices and plan on the age that's appropriate. It gets really hard. I know. I've been there, been through it. Because all their friends have them, or they feel left out if they don't have one. But it really it can be about a particular purpose first, and then grow to use the apps that other kids are using. But it is a tough decision. So if they have their own phone, then there are things that they need to know about protecting themselves. And I don't need to tell you that the number one application kids use on their phone is the camera. And so we do need to have a little discussion about the camera. And really, it's all about encouraging them to use it in positive ways. They should know that they should never feel pressured to take pictures that they're uncomfortable with or they would not want the whole world to see. That's the important one right there. Never take a picture. You should never have to take a picture that you don't want the whole world to see, because at some point it will probably get out. And what I mean by that is some of these pictures are taken with kids that are in relationship to each other. Things go sour. One gets angry at the other. One takes the picture that was very private of the other person and blasts it out in their fury and rage, right? So very important to have that discussion and to let them know that they should never feel pressured to take any pictures that they're not comfortable with the rest of the world seeing. And that's a good preventative one there. If they ever feel pressured, they can come to you if something happens, or if they ever see something upsetting. Quite often as parents, we're asked, what should I do if, or parents ask us when we do these, what should I do if my kid receives one of those pictures and didn't ask for it? Good question. This mom said, hey, I pay the phone bill and everything's in my name. I worry about this stuff. It's great. We need to remind our kids, if they ever receive anything like that, there's two things that they should do. They should delete it and they should tell someone about it, hopefully you. That's critical, because then it's time for us to take some action. Let someone know. Maybe it's the parent of the child who sent the picture, if you're comfortable with that. It could be the school. It could be law enforcement, right? So reporting it is important, because if there is ever an investigation, and by the way, possession of such photos, and I think you know what kinds of photos I'm talking about, is a federal offense. It's not only distribution, but possession. So if it's on the device, right? So if there's ever an investigation, the investigators, the police, whoever it is, will know that the phone was sent, that the picture was sent to a phone that you pay for. So that's why it's important to get out in front of it, so that you're not, caught up in that whole thing. And by the way, there is a room in the house where those pictures are taken, where the kids know that you will not. This is where you might have to earmuff the kid, but there is one place where I'm just going to let you guess, and you can put it in the chat if you want. There is a room in the house where they have complete privacy, where they know that you would never come in on, unless they called for you, right? And that's where those pictures are taken. So if a phone is taken into that room, yeah, exactly, Deb. And a lot of families have a rule for that. Yep, Vaughn, Tiffany, everyone got it. That is where those things happen. So that's something to be aware of there. There are tons of fun things to take pictures of, and we want their kids to use the camera in all the fun ways possible, but never to either hurt anyone else or even more importantly, that's something to be that would harm themselves. So we have to talk about that. Gaming. Someone asked about gaming. Great way to increase reflexes, build relationships, problem solve, right? Games are healthy. We play them too. Good way to exercise the brain. And it might also be just a way to veg out and not think about all the wonderful, awful things in the world, right? But if it gets in the way of sleep, which I can tell you from personal experience, I had to take whoever said they set their router to shut the devices off at 8-9. I had an extra chuckle at that, because that was my last stand, is to cut off access of the PS4 when it got past 11 p.m. because Dad needs to sleep to go to work. And I don't want to hear explosions and yelling and screaming over headsets with friends. So when it gets in the way of things like sleep, and it did in my case, that's when we have to enforce the rules, use the tools, have the discussion, make sure, hey, I'm giving you this privilege of playing the game. This is how you pay me back with the respect of the rules, right? So does anyone have a kid who struggles to stop playing a game after you've told them maybe 5 more minutes? You can just throw that in the chat. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So a little trick to that, if you can get away with it, is to consider the games that actually have an end, right? Like if it's a sports game, it's going to end. If it's Rocket League or NBA 2K or Madden Football or NHL or FIFA, it's going to have an end, right? And that end might be before the whole game is over. Maybe it's halftime or the end of the period or something like that. But yeah, one kid plays for an hour and then the next an hour. Yeah, I know, it's an endless stream of fun. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to establishing those rules and in together, and then enforcing those rules. And that's the way to clip it, because there have to be consequences for breaking the rules. And it just has to be treated as a privilege, because it is. All right. I think we're maybe about 10, 15 minutes behind. I'll try to be a little quicker. Kimberly will give me the hook. Be kind to others. Pretty obvious here, right? It's the right thing to do. It reflects on our kids the same way we want them to behave in person, when they're at school, when they're on the playground, when they're at a bar mitzvah, whatever they're doing, is we also want them to behave in that same respectful, mature way online. It's not just about saying nice things to people, right? It's also about respecting other people's privacy. I ask the kids sometimes, hey, when you take a picture, how many times do you ask the kids you took a picture of if it's okay to take that picture? And if it's okay to post that picture somewhere? And they're like, oh, geez, I never ask. Right. So it's respecting other people's privacy too. And oh man, this one always gets me, especially because I have 2 of my kids are girls, and girls get mean very early in school. And like I said before, with the every picture that's posted has to be commented on in the most positive way, or else they just take it to heart. And it really becomes to the point where we as parents really have to communicate to them that they are not the sum of the likes and the retweets and the thumbs ups. These are just they're just meaningless things that don't mean they don't add up to who they are. So we really have to, and I do this in person, especially on this one, remind them that their value is so much more than that. They're we think of them in so many other ways, that we show our love, and when we show our love and we show how much they mean to us. And those are the real things, right? It's not about their likes and retweets and everything. They're much greater than that. And that's something that we have to really work on hard, because that's a hard one. Sorry if I missed this, Alicia. Is there any way to limit ads popping up? Yes, there are pop-up blockers and ad things that you can plug into browsers. Oh, Kimberly took care of that one. I got to stop looking. I'm a helper guy. I always want to help people. Nurture kindness, right? This is important for us. We have to support our kids and remind them that we're always there in any situation. There is no taboo subject, whatever it is. If we have an honest conversation about it, and we're able to talk to each other, that's how we help each other. So, what happened there? Sorry about that. I think I stopped the sharing of the window. Hold on. I hit a bad button. Okay. Coming back. Okay. And we really, we really have to show them what kindness looks like. When we have that, we are always there to have a conversation. We always treat them with respect and expect the same in return. And we ask ourselves questions like, what would we do if our kid was bullied online? What would we do if our kid was actually the one doing the bullying? Right? And when we see the good things that are happening online, we want to share those things and share those stories with our kids. Okay, finally wrapping up, be savvy, good habits and good uses. These days, it is very hard to know who to trust. That's in person too, but online especially, right? Because anyone can grab a photo. So if I'm not Original Joe, and this is on Instagram, I can take that photo, I can save it to my machine, and then I can create a new account under Copycat and take credit for that photo, right? So the kids should know that that's possible. They should know that the news and videos on YouTube or social media posts can be factual, or they can be complete hoaxes. And we've certainly seen as adults the power of social media and its effect on our society, right? So really what we want to teach the kids here to do is pause and ask questions. Why was this made? Who made it? What's missing from this? How might different people relate to this or interpret it? How do I really know that this is factual? How do I know it's true? Who may benefit? Who might be harmed? We have a really good resource with that we've teamed with an organization called Namely, Building Healthy Relationships with Media. It's a good literacy guide, and I'm sure it's available on our site, which I'll get to in a second. It was co-developed with, Namely is the National Association for Media Literacy Education, and that's on our website, which will be coming. Another good habit is, and I'm curious to know, is anyone ever looked themselves up on Google? Have we ever done a Google search on our name? What'd you find? Have you ever asked your kids if they've done this? Good habit to look yourself up and know what your cyber twin is up to, right? So I think this one is the movie. So here we go. Go to Google. One thing if you want to be, Google has this thing called alerts. If you want to know what's out there, this is just an example of if I want to see that anytime there's a mention of Trend Micro, in this case, I could make it my name, but you can type in what you want to be alerted on, how often, what sources, what language, what region, how many, and how often you want it delivered, all of those settings. And you can create an alert on Google. So if I want to see anytime the David Abramowitz comes up on, I can put an alert for my name on here and see anytime that it appears online and in what context. So I have an idea of, my cyber twin, what's out there. It's a good idea to see what's out there about you. And that comes up later when you're, applying for a job and those types of things, which brings us to this. So we follow the Kaplan Institute's annual study, and they survey college admissions officers every year, and they ask them, would you ever look up information about an applicant to your school online? 66% of them said yes this year, and that's higher than all other previous years since this survey started in 2014. And then the next thing is, of those 66% that do ask, 57% of those who looked found something that negatively affected the applicant's status. There was a story about here, I think in Frederick in Maryland, there was a lacrosse player who had a full scholarship, or field hockey, had a complete scholarship. Admissions officers looked her information up online, found all kinds of things that they didn't like, and wound up rescinding the scholarship. So cuckoo, I know, because whoever thought something like that would have been done in our day, but it is now. And you can see it's on the other side of 50%, right? So 66% look, 57% find something bad that affects their decision. But important that 38% find something positive that made the applicant stronger. And that is important because that number is going up too, because more and more kids are finding more positive ways to use the internet, and ways that they can bolster their reputation and showcase their skills and so forth. And that's what this is about, right? So good use is learning a good skill. There's tons of training. As adults, we use things like YouTube to learn guitar or whatever it is, learning new skills, promoting a cause, something that your child might be passionate about. Maybe it's, saving the rescue puppies, or doing a blanket drive to give the puppies blankets, whatever it is, like raising funds, showcasing their accomplishments. If they love to write, or they love to make movies, or they love to do whatever, lots of good ways to show that, with things like a YouTube channel. Now, if your kid's too young for that, then a great way is to encourage them to enter contests. We have one called at Trend Micro called What's Your Story every year. We give away $10,000 as the grand prize. It's usually around some topic, and the kids make videos. The younger kids get together, like in an elementary school, they'll get together as a class and their teacher will submit on their behalf. But entering those contests can be a great way for them to use the internet and to express and put their skills out there. So wrapping it up, we want to help kids be great digital citizens. It takes a lot of work on our part too. We just can't be silent observers, right? We have to be engaged in the process. We own the technology. We need to create the rules that enforce the good uses of that technology. And it's just a more holistic thing than just being safe, right? Being safe, you can see, is part of it, but it's all four areas. We do want you to know, and I think it's especially great for this audience. We have a cyber academy, which is newish online at trendmicro.com/internet-safety. The cyber academy is a bunch of different subjects. They have short videos, cartoonish type videos. They have a Kahoot quiz at the end. The kids love Kahoot. An activity sheet and a one-page, discussion guide. Great thing to do with your kid. Sit down and watch these short clips together. Have them do the quiz and then discuss it with them. And it's all kinds of different categories, including some that you can see are new: camera safety, kindness, safety settings. And I think this has even been updated since. So these are great, and we do these now when we come out, as I'll be doing this year as well, talking to the kids live in school. We'll watch one of these videos and we'll have a discussion around it and give them a little homework to take home too, which is basically just reinforcing it. It's really great. Cyber Academy, check it out. If you're interested in that for your elementary school, I'm sure we would love to come out and do that for you. Tons of resources. Yes, Betsy, the contest and everything else you'll find here. trendmicro.com/internet-safety. Tons of resources for you as parents. That's our site that's dedicated to this program. So you'll find everything there. And really, we want you to keep it going. So really important, as I said, to stay active in this. I know it's completely overwhelming sometimes because new games, new apps come out all the time. We're trying to keep track of our own crazy lives, much less keep track of all this other stuff that our kids are involved in. But it's really important to have a pulse on that, because having that conversation is so critical to the communication with your kid, and making sure that they can come to you and feel good about it. Co-creating the rules and discussing them. It's just all really, really good stuff. So that's what we want and encourage you to do as parents. Communicate, stay up to date with things as much as you can. Obviously, about TikTok and the information stealing there, right? So all that stuff, that's topical for sure. And try out, do one new thing. Maybe that's getting together and If you've never seen TikTok in action, maybe download it a couple or, with your friends and just have a little group of you that test it. Couple of last things here. Pretty timely. We're right in this spot. This is actually Data Privacy Week. It used to be Data Privacy Day, and it's expanded into a whole week. Man, if we only got off of work. And it's centered around, obviously, data privacy and how valuable your personal information is, and encouraging people to do things that enforce privacy and any activities that encourage us to protect our personal information and our kids as well. And lastly, those darn location services. You will find, or maybe you didn't know, that many, if not all of the apps that you have in this example on your phone have some sort of location services, and a lot of them have absolutely no reason to have them turned on. Some things are obvious, right? Like GPS programs like maps and things like that are directing you somewhere. Obviously, they need your location at that time. But if you go to settings, privacy and security, location services, make sure that I know it seems like a contradiction, but make sure location services is turned on. That is when you'll see all the applications down below that are using them. Scroll down and take a look at the apps that are on there. Tap an app and pick an option. Some of them have never. They have while using, things like that. So take a look at that, and especially pictures, right? We talked about the camera. When kids take pictures with the camera, if they don't set if you or them don't set the location services on there, everything is recorded in there, the exact latitude and longitude where the picture was taken, right? So all of this extra information that is not necessarily what we want to be out there. So turn them off. Okay, so feedback, very, very important here. And would love to know what you thought of this webinar, how we can improve it. Did we hit on the things that you liked, so forth? Trendmicro.com, internet safety. If I think once this sharing ends, it will automatically go to this survey. If you fill that out, we would greatly appreciate it. And you'll also be entered to win a 1-year subscription to our security software, Trend Micro Maximum Security. That's for Windows, and there's also Mac versions. 1 year for up to 5 devices. So that can be laptops, desktops, phones, tablets, etc. And with that, I say gracias, especially to Gigi for doing our translation tonight. And thank everyone for coming to this. It's really one of those volunteer programs that I love at Trend Micro, because it's all about giving back to the community. And it's not about saying we have all the answers. We do not have all the answers. We have a lot of experience in tech. And we, whatever our jobs are at Trend Micro, there are a bunch of us that volunteer for this and enjoy giving back to the community in this way. So I thank you very much for attending. I'm just going to take a look and see if there are any last questions here. Betsy, I answered that one about the contest. It's called What's Your Story? And you'll find it at Trend Micro. What are my thoughts about devices like Alexa and Google Home? Well, I don't like them at all because I'm an Apple guy, so I use Siri. You know what? I think it's your level of comfort with there's a little bit of risk, and like you saw, like Google, who is it? The Nest, right? They had their doorbell or Ring, whoever it was that had a breach and was sending out information. All the smart devices are going to be a matter of how comfortable you are with the risk and how you measure that in terms of the convenience that you get from them, right? I'm a fan of smart devices. I have a bunch of them in the house, but remember we talked about the guest network versus main network, right? Because these devices are cool, but the more things we put on the internet, the more exposed we are. If you want a really scary read, I just finished a book called This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends by Nicole Perlroth. excellent book. It's all about the cyber arms trading, and it is, very eye-opening, an excellent read. And the more things we put on the internet, the more exposed we are, and that goes for not only the devices that are in our homes, but our electrical grid, our think about it, anything, water, right? Everything that has devices puts us at risk, and some more dangerous risks than others. More information. What are your so that's what my thoughts. So yeah, I like smart devices. Just use caution, and try to keep them as secure as you can, and put this stuff on guest network. What age would I start cyber? So Cyber Academy, I think, is for 8 to 11-year-olds, or 5. Is it 5 to 11 or 8 to 11? It's
7 to 10.
7 to 10. I was close. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so 7 to 10. There you go. So I'm really looking forward to the first one, doing that in an elementary school. That'll be fun. Okay, so I lied and I said 60 to 80 minutes, and where did we wind up? We wound up an hour and 35, sort of. Oops. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Next time I won't pay so much attention to the questions. But really appreciate everyone, and please keep in contact with us. And even personally for me, our email addresses are all first name _ last name @trendmicro.com. I'm happy to answer any questions you have offline. We're all here to help each other get through this crazy world. So let's do it.